Hi, my name is Alejandro Pérez Pérez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week, we will have one episode regarding one disruptive aspect of technologies for the time to drink a cup of coffee. Today we have Nieves Ábalos Serrano, who is a person who has a lot of things to say, and it's an important thing talking about what she is going to say because she's an expert on voice and synthetic voice and everything about voice recognition. You will see during the conversation. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science engineering, also a master's degree in software development, and a PhD in software development in Universidad de Granada. Actually, she's finishing the PhD, right?
Yeah.
And also regarding her experience, as I mentioned before, she has a lot of experience regarding everything about chatbots, NLP models, AI. Currently, she's specialized in Alexa and Google Assistants. She will explain that maybe during the conversation. And also, she has done a lot of roles regarding the web developing, researcher, intelligent agents, and more. But now she is a co-founder and CPO of Monoceros Labs, which is a startup, have a lot of things about AI, about voice assistants, and many other things. And they are starting, let's say, a new product about voice, synthetic voices and voice recognition in Spanish, which is not very common, called Fonos. And well, she also has two podcasts, one a little bit older, like 2 or 3 years ago, called Podcast with more women in voice, right? And then another one quite recent that you have just started a couple of weeks ago, called Cuando las máquinas hablan. So when machines start to talk, right, in English.
Yeah.
So welcome, Nieves, to this podcast. It's a big pleasure having you here because you are a quite known expert in this domain. And yeah, how are you? Are you fine?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Alejandro, for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here talking to you about this in English. That is not usually common. We are always like having this conversation in Spanish, no? Because we are building the ecosystem in Spanish. So I'm fine, and thank you again for inviting me.
You're welcome. I have one question to start the conversation, Nieves. Are you more an Alexa fan or a Google Home fan? Or even, a Siri fan? I don't know.
It's a difficult question because I think the three of the assistants you mentioned have different qualities and different specialties, no? But I should say that in Spanish, I'm quite a fan of Alexa. You will say, okay, Nieves, this is not fair because you are an Alexa champion. You should say that you are a fan of Alexa, yes. But it's true that I really love the expertise, the personality of Google Assistant in terms of the voice and the capabilities it has. You know, you can ask anything to Google Assistant and always it will have an answer for you, no? So I really love that too. And Siri, it's always there, no? Tomorrow I had a class and Siri asked me if I wanted to set up a reminder. So Siri is always there too.
Okay. And actually, what's an Alexa champion? Because you mentioned that you are an Alexa champion. What does it mean?
It's an award that the Amazon recognized to some people of the conversational ecosystem, that they award us this Alexa Champion title because we try to push the community, sharing all the knowledge of Alexa, building Alexa applications. And, you know, the recognition is not only for developing, but sharing knowledge and sharing with the ecosystem. And Women in Voice Spain has, as you said, this community has allowed me to show how we share the knowledge of voice assistant here in Spain to the rest of the world, no? So the recognition has been for that.
Okay, congratulations then.
Thank you.
Okay, so one question, because maybe for the audience, maybe they don't know about synthetic voice and how it works in Spain or in Spanish language. Can you say, what are the challenges that this ecosystem, this AI or these new technologies are facing for the Spanish speakers?
That's a really good question. I should say that the first challenge is that if you find out there a lot of papers and GitHub repositories, they are all made for the English language mainly, no? So if you try to create a synthetic voice in Spanish with this technology, you will find that it's not going to work because there are several layers that they are mainly language dependent. They are going to work with the phonetic representation in English and not with the phonetic representation in Spanish, no? And also the data that you need to train these kind of models and algorithmic architectures, no? You will find that mainly English-based models train with English data, English audios, and not with Spanish audios, no? So there's a lot of opportunity here to build technology specialized in Spanish, and it's also a challenge, no? You will say, okay, Nieves, there are plenty of Spanish audios, Spanish data out there, no? You can find them in YouTube, you can find them wherever, no? But these kind of models are trained not only with audio, you will need the text translation, the text representation of what is being said on the audio. And there are several nuances in the Spanish speakers ecosystem. I mean, the differences in my Spanish, because I'm from Andalusia, no? How do I pronounce the end of the words? They are different from how somebody from Madrid or Castilla, no? That they tend to pronounce better the ends of the word, no? So these kind of things, they are also represented in the text representation, no? That we need as input for these kind of models, no? So there are a lot of challenges regarding these linguistic features and linguistic differences from the English speaking ecosystem.
Okay, it is quite strange because Spanish language is like one of the most common languages in the world. I mean, I can understand that the technology word is really related to English sometimes. But I mean, what an opportunity for new companies as yours, for instance,
Yeah.
to create new models in Spanish, to train new algorithms, and to start a business. Because actually, it connects a lot to your business in Monoceros Labs, or also, I mean, Fonos, because that's for audience to understand a little bit better. If I understand correctly, what you do is you can clone a voice as mine or yours or whatever. So maybe could be great if, I don't know, maybe for people who are going to lose their voices because they are sick or they have a problem, or also, I mean, for other kind of stuff like content creation and more things. But also, you are also creating new voices, new synthetic voices for brands, right?
Yeah.
So maybe can you explain a little bit, I mean, how it works or what do you do in Fonos?
Yeah. So to create a new voice model, we need, as I previously said, we need data, no? We need recordings, we need voices, no? For instance, I can create a new model with my voice, as you said, no? So what do I need? I need to record myself narrating several sentences in order to have enough data to train and to clone my voice, no? So this is quite an easy way to create a synthetic voice because it's quite straightforward. I only need somebody reading and recording his or her voice, no? Of course, we need the consent of this person to clone, to create this model of the voice, no? And then, as you said, in the meanwhile, while we were like experimenting with the technology, we discovered that mixing the voices of several speakers, we could get new voices that had the characteristics of them, and mixing them, the output, the final result, didn't identify none of the previous speakers, no? So we train a multi-speaker model with these several speakers, no? And then in the meantime, we start like changing the settings of what the architecture learned. It's like the model has learned something. So we play with these things that the model has learned, and we test the different results, and we test, okay, changing this, we have a voice that is quite soft, that speaks quite fast and don't identify the original speakers. Okay, this voice could be a good option, no? And we start experimenting, and the output is that we can have like a catalog of voices, of mixed voices that don't identify the original speakers, no? And it's quite a challenge because sometimes the voices don't match. I mean, the characteristics of the speakers are quite different. So you can have voices that doesn't sound well. They sound quite robotic. So the secret is having the enough representation of the different characteristics. I mean, having low voices, having low pitch voices, having high pitched voices, having voices that speak quite fast, voices that speak slowly, no? And having the spectrum of the different characteristics and playing with them. But it's a challenge.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, for instance, like, for example, if you mix my voice and yours, maybe it's better than if you mix your voice and maybe another woman voice, right?
Yeah, because of the characteristics. If our voices match, maybe the result is better than having two women with different pitches, no? For
Okay.
instance, yeah, it's quite
It's funny. It's weird,
yeah.
actually. It's, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the way we can even create genderless voices
Hmm.
because we can mix characteristics independently from the gender. So we can have gender fluid voices and so on. So it's
Wow.
quite, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really excited because you're going to have the beta access for some people soon open.
Yeah,
And I'm really curious about that. So I hope that your beta access is going to be ready soon and I could
yeah.
try also to see how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, and also Fonos, as you said, the tool is not only playing with voices. You will have an editor. It's like a Google Docs. You can add there the text you want to synthesize, in which you want the voice to narrate it for you, and then you can download and you can change also the voice, the velocity, the pitch, different things, no? And you can download these audios and maybe create a podcast or edit your own podcast with your own voice. Maybe it's like, this sentence, maybe it can be improved. Can I use my own clone voice to edit this? Yes, you will.
That would be amazing, actually, because I mean, a little bit also this topic, if it's not really well used, maybe because, wow, I mean, I understand that your product is going to be really ethical and legal and
Yeah.
everything correct. But aren't you afraid of people maybe, I don't know, stealing data voice or something like that? Or maybe, for example, I mean, I have a lot of episodes already published on Spotify and
Yes.
other platforms. So evil person download them and use it to clone my voice. Aren't you afraid of that?
I should say that the jurisdiction of this is extended right now. I mean, the GDPR protects your data and your voice is personal data. So this law is protecting you from these kind of things because if somebody creates a voice model with your voice and your voice is a personal data, they are using personal data without your consent.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sue these people, but we have to be ethical as users and also as creator of technology, no? So as you said, we are going to create mechanisms, procedures to avoid these kind of things, no? If you want to clone your voice, you will have to assure that is your voice, that you have your permission to do that, no? And in this way, we will create the model for you, your voice model. You will have this platform, it has credentials and so on. So in every moment, you will know which kind of sentences have been used. So if somebody hacks your model, you will know because you will know which kind of text they are using, they are synthesizing with your voice. So I should say that our platform is going to be robust enough to avoid this kind of hackings too. So we have to put the enough mechanisms to assure everybody that this kind of technology is going to be used in the good way and not in the bad way, no? But as you said, we can't stop evil.
Yeah.
So we will have to trust also that people are not going to use that.
Yes, actually, I see, like, for example, pictures. None of us are afraid of, I don't know, taking a picture of us, a selfie, and publish it on, I don't know, Instagram or a platform like that.
Yeah,
And it's more or less the same approach, because now with other generative AIs, a not good person could directly take my face from
yeah,
this picture and maybe put this in a video or something. I
yes,
know people who have suffered from this already. And I mean, with this, we are not afraid because we are used to that. But maybe with voices, this is something new. It feels like, wow, I really need to be really sure that this data that I am creating, it's going to be this model. I
secure.
mean, it's going to be secured. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
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 that's a good point.
yeah. And we will create all the mechanisms to assure that. In fact, as I said, voice is a personal data. And as software developers, we have to create the mechanisms for people to not hack this kind of data, no, or databases and so on. So we will do that of sure, because
Yeah,
it's a way to do things.
yeah, sure. Okay, and also talking about ethical aspects, how can you ensure the diversity of voices? Because you mentioned that you come from Andalusia, from the south of Spain, and you speak different than me, for instance, in Spanish. How can you ensure that these new voices that you are creating reflect the diversity of the Spanish language? I mean, we have said in Spain, but even, I mean, in all Southern America and Central America countries, there are like a lot of Spanish speakers that speaks different than us. So how can you ensure this?
That's a really good question. For instance, the way we create these TTS models, no, they are made differently from 4 years ago, no. This kind of technology gets the patterns of the voices so fast and so quickly. So if I clone my voice, as you said, I'm from Andalusia, this model is going to reflect this diversity, the nuances of my voice, what makes my voice different, no? And we can create different clone voices, no, with different dialects and varieties of Spanish, no. The thing that they have in common is that they have the same phonetic representation. So also we want to improve the way we train our models to get the different phonetic representations of Latin American Spanish speaking countries and so on. So the way is, okay, we understand these differences. We understand that these differences are phonetic differences and also prosodic differences that they have in the voice. So cloning them, they are going to reflect that. And also we are going to create these different custom phonetic representations for us to train the models that get that nuances, no. It's quite tricky, but as I said, if English companies that they don't understand these nuances create Spanish models, they are going to get the custom Spanish voice model, and they are not going to understand that maybe this person speaks Andalusian or speak another language, no. So this is kind of the way we want to do that. The cloning thing that I said before is what we do right now. We are cloning Andalusian models, voice models. We have also tried this technology with people from Canary Islands, no, with this accent. We want to create Catalan models, but they are different because they use different phonemes too. So this is a step closer to the second way I said before, no? Like we have to create custom phonetic representations too, no? But we are on the way. I think that is important, no? It's like the Spanish people speaking Spanish is the good way to speak Spanish is the neutral way, no? The custom way, the standard way. And no, the good way to speak Spanish is our own way, no?
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it's really beautiful to have this diversity, because
Yeah.
otherwise it would be really boring to have only one standard accent. Or yeah.
Yeah, it's a political thing, the standard.
I agree. And actually, I realized that talking about Spanish, most of people don't speak the standard Spanish. So
Yeah,
it's really weird why we decided to have this as a standard, because there are like plenty of varieties. And that's lovely.
yes,
That's wonderful that we have in this language. Yeah. So
yeah,
let's try to keep it. And as you said, to create new models that are able to learn from that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
really a good
Yeah,
point.
and co-official languages, as I said,
Yes.
Catalan, Galician, no? Euskera.
And how are you going to take this? Are you going to, let's say, reuse this first model and do like a fine tuning to Catalan, or just create another one for Catalan and so on?
No, they will need to be created from scratch
Okay.
because the key thing here is the phonetic representation. For instance, the L sound in Catalan is quite common. If you hear somebody speaking Spanish and you hear him or her speaking the L, you will know that she or he is from Catalunya, no? So we have to sit and adapt the phonetic representation in order to train the model from scratch with these voice recordings also in Catalan and create models from scratch.
Amazing, but a lot of work, right?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds easy at first, no? It's like, oh, create a voice model. It should be
But
very
it's
easy,
not.
no? It's not.
Okay, Nieves, and we are finishing. So I have one last question for you. What advice would you say to any person that maybe is interested on all of these things we have said about voices, voice generation, about learning about this thing? Can you give an advice to this person?
Yeah, I should recommend reading a lot, not only papers, because it depends on the knowledge or the background of the person, no? If you are technical, I should say read papers, but not only papers. You can find a lot of things regarding synthetic voices in blog posts or podcasts as the ones we are sharing or we are creating. And not only reading and watching videos, I should say that if you have motivation, the good way to start is like finding the way, maybe playing with GitHub or repos out there, or maybe looking for another people who are sharing their knowledge. There are a lot of voice evangelists out there, no? People who are sharing how they learn. And for instance, now with all the chat GPT hype, people who were from the voice background, they are adding voice chat GPT, no? So they are building tools. They are showing how they do that, no? They are showing that maybe with Apple, with an MacBook, you can use the voices built in with the Mac ecosystem to synthesize something, no? So find people in which you can identify and learn from them, no? I think this is the best way to learn.
Yes, I agree. And also, like as you said, trying and testing and making things, because
Yeah,
only by making we learn, I think. It reminds me when you said ChatGPT. You know that during the last weeks I have been playing with Whisper AI,
yeah,
which is the OpenAI new model for transcriptions of audio, actually, of voices. And I
yeah,
have been playing with that. And I mean, know a little bit how to code some stuff in Python, but I mean, not how to reuse a model from Hugging Face or GitHub. So, I mean, that's a little bit maybe difficult for me, but I use ChatGPT to be help, and I use
yes,
it as a copilot. And I was able to actually to transcript a video from YouTube as like a test, and it
yes,
works. So, I mean, only by making, we learn. So I recommend also to try, and it's a
yes.
really interesting moment, I think.
Yes, good advice that use ChatGPT to helping you building. And yes, I usually use ChatGPT, yeah, for that to help
Mhm.
me, get
Yeah.
to the place I want.
Exactly. I mean, of course, it's not going to be, let's say, the final solution or
No,
even the, let's say, perfect one. But still,
no,
it opens you the mind of thinking how it could be.
yeah,
Maybe then you think how to go further. So yeah,
yeah,
a good way also to first start.
yeah.
Okay, Nieves, I have two questions that I
Okay.
usually say to the guests when you're here. So the first one is, how do you like coffee? And the second one is, how may audience contact you?
Okay, so the first one with milk, usually, but sometimes americano is fine,
Mhm.
and sometimes there's cafeinado, decaf,
Too much
but
coffee,
with
right?
yeah, but mainly with milk.
Okay.
And if you are hearing us or you are interested in contacting me, you can find me in LinkedIn, Twitter. Just send me a DM and I will answer you back as soon as I can. So I like to help people and to talk with people that they are learning the same things as I'm learning or as I'm doing. So happy to help.
Actually, I must confess that that was what I did. So I contacted you on, I think, on Twitter, right? So,
Yeah.
and you came really easily. And as people may notice, you are really open to discuss. And yeah, it's really a pleasure having you here. Actually, I think it was a really insightful conversation about a new topic, actually, because now we are always talking about ChatGPT. But I think the next topic that is going to be open is voice, because
Yes.
I mean, text is fine, but it's going to be better if we can listen to ChatGPT. So yeah, it was a really, really interesting and fruitful conversation. Thank you, Nieves.
Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being here one more week. If you liked it, please subscribe to the podcast and to the newsletter in alejandroperezperez.com. Please share both with your friends and relatives, and don't forget to give me 5 stars in Apple Podcast and Spotify. See you next week. Bye bye.